Hello and welcome to another Tech Stuff Tuesday presented by EMF Audio. This week we're going to discuss adding second batteries or multiple batteries to a system. So you see where we're starting here is from the basic setup where you have the battery that would be under the hood and the alternator. The alternator has a positive output. That is going to the positive terminal on the battery. It's already like that from the factory. This can be upgraded, that wire. If you have a high output alternator, you should definitely upgrade that. The factory wire might be only like, say, 8 gauge. So if you go to a 200, 250 amp alternator, you're going to need 1/0. So that's a separate video, but the alternator is bolted directly to the motor. So that is actually your ground. Your motor is grounded to the body. The alternator is grounded to the motor. All of that's going to be your ground. That eventually this same ground will be the battery ground. That's all going through the body. And if you wanted to, you could also add a ground from the alternator over to the battery directly as an upgrade. So this is what you're dealing with from the factory. All of that is already there. So if we're going to add batteries to the back, you're going to have one wire that goes to the back from the battery here down to a fuse. Now, the reason you want this fuse here is to protect the wire. It is not to protect the device. It is for the wire, so you don't actually burn the car down in the event there's a dead short. So you want this fuse to be relatively close to the battery. It doesn't have to be immediately on top of it. Generally speaking, about 12 to 18 inches is perfectly acceptable. You want to make sure that this wire is not touching anything metal that it could short on directly against the engine, no direct heat, anything like that. So that is our first fuse. We want a second fuse. So that's going to be the length of the car, and now we're in the back right here at this fuse holder. So this fuse holder is back here because anywhere along this section of wire, if there's a dead short, it's going to go to the path of least resistance. So it would go back to this fuse and pop it, but if we didn't have a fuse here, it would go directly to the battery here. So if we didn't have a fuse here, this wire is still energized by this battery. So this being the firewall, we want one fuse, run the length of the car, another fuse, again close to the battery, going to the positive of this battery. So if we have more than one battery, we don't need an additional fuse. You could use bus bars, you could use just wire. But we're going to go from one positive to the other positive. So now we've got both of these batteries connected directly, going to a fuse, the wire length of the car, another fuse, and the battery under the hood. All of these are now connected short of the grounds. So we have the ground on the battery. There's a few ways that you can go about doing this. People have different preferences, but at the very least, it does have to be grounded. So you can go straight to metal on the body for that ground, and you can do the same thing over here, or you could just parallel those. Now you can't have too many grounds, so if you can do more grounds like this, you're better off. Alternatively, if you don't want to ground anywhere in the back, or you're not able because the body's fiberglass, something like that, there's not any good ground points, you could run a wire from the ground all the way up directly to the battery. I do like to run grounds from front battery to back battery and also to the body. You definitely will not have any problems with ground loops, which can cause noise, but also you're guaranteed to have good grounds. So from here you would have your amplifier, or amplifiers, we'll just use one for this case. So you'll have a positive and negative input, and you can go from the battery to the amp, which is not recommended that you do that directly because it is not fused. This wire could dead short, you could have excessive current, the amp could blow up. If the power supply blows up on the amp, that can dead short. You would be dead shorting directly to the battery. So we don't ideally want to. Yes, people do it for competition purposes because there are losses in every connection and fuse and that kind of thing. There are various reasons for it. So in a daily application, you absolutely want to run your power with another fuse right here. And you're going to want that close to the battery just like you do on these for the same reasons. And you can run a ground off the battery, or again, you could run that ground directly to your chassis. So that will make everything all connected. But the biggest thing is going to be a fuse at the front here, a fuse at the back here, near the batteries, and again fused between the battery and the amplifier. The amplifier may have fusing on it. That might be sufficient in the event of a power supply short, but it does not protect the wire. The wire is going to be the biggest concern if you have a dead short. You can view that as you want, but the industry standard of safety would be to put a fuse on that. Is that in a competition scenario, they may opt out of that fuse. I have done it before. I make sure it's not anywhere near metal where it can dead short, and I'm also aware that I'm using sufficient size wire for that, so I'm not going over current. So there we have the basis of adding additional batteries. We are an excess power dealer. You can buy all of your batteries and supercapacitors from us directly on the website 24/7. We also have wire from Sundown Audio and Access Power by the spool in various sizes, 8 gauge, 4 gauge, 1/0, and speaker wire. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notified every Tuesday when we do a new video that will be educational and explanatory.